Habang gigil sila sa brut-brut pao, eto chill lang nakapisan. Habang gigil sila sa brut-brut pao, eto chill lang nakapisan. Nakapisan.
What up, loved ones? What it do? Spotty Young right here. You know where I'm from. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're into real shit only, watch this video. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Check it out. Check it out. I'm with the big bro, big homie, Angel, aka Sad Eye from Westside Islanders, Long Beach, man. You know what I mean? He's here to spit game, trip out in this. This is from experience right here, man. Yes, sir. Hey, what's up, Pare? Kamusta? Kamusta?
What's up, Ade? Doing good, bro. Thanks for having
Yes,
me.
sir. Appreciate you coming through, man. So, just real quick, man, to those who don't know, give us a little introduction about yourself.
So my name is Angel. I was actually born in Baguio, Philippines. Left when I was 2, because both of my parents came to the States to join the military. My mom was in the U.S. Army, and my dad was in the Navy. So growing up in a household here in the States, as far as I can remember, was always moving around, never feeling like a home. We were always moving around, always a new person at school, and growing up that way, you just grow up weird for some reason. I talk to myself a lot, or I talk to my brother, or, there was never that, you miss out on some of the things that, like I see a lot of people that have friends that they've grown up with their whole life. And, like I never fit in circles because I'm always moving around. Even at work or anywhere I go, I don't feel like I fit in. And I feel like that is something that's contributed to growing up a military brat. But
I can relate, pare, about moving to different area, different places. You have to adapt again and new friends. You're always the new guy. Sometimes you got to learn a different accent or language or dialect, stuff like that. But so, anywho, yeah, man. Uh, i- in Long Beach, right? How old were you when you were growing up in Long Beach?
so like I said earlier, we moved around a lot. So by the time we were middle school, going into I'm sorry, going into 6th grade. Oh no, actually it was 5th grade. The end of 5th grade, I was here the end of 5th grade. So I went to elementary school at Hudson in Long Beach, and that's like where Hudson is the hub of where Islanders were. One of the cliques was there where I grew up in, so I would see them. So I was probably what, 11? Was it 11 years old in 5th grade? So at the end of 5th grade, I was there for like maybe not too long, not too long to even be noticed. So I would stay in the shadows, but I would walk where we used to live in the military base. They had a gate over there, and you would have to cross this park, Hudson Park on 23rd Street, and that's where the homies used to kick it, and used to walk past them all the time. So it was about 11 going on 12 is when we moved to Long Beach.
And this is around year 90s,
And the year was 91.
91. Damn, right
I'm old.
Old school, old school. All right, so I feel you, man. You got your homies hanging around. Uh, what kind of like activities do you guys like do for fun and stuff?
In middle school, it started off very innocent. It was breakdancing. The breakdancing was part of a dance group. It was called Main Source, and it was just strictly that, just a bunch of homies breakdancing. And naturally, it started off with my older brother and his friends because, I was always in my brother's shadow growing up, because his personality was more charismatic, and out there. I was more like shy, timid, silent. And so naturally, his friends, brothers, would be my friends. And we kind of tag along and, be in the back scene and, try to fit in and do what they were doing too. So yeah, it was fun. I had a lot of great memories breakdancing, and just being a kid. Back in those days where we used to play in the street, you know, didn't have the
Yeah,
cell phones. If you wanted to see your friends, you'd have to go. You know,
yeah.
gas was really cheap, so you'd be out.
Those were the days where when snitching was not cool yet, right?
Oh no,
There was no
God.
snitch. Yeah. There was still some type of honor, a little bit of the code in the streets, right? In the 90s.
And there was like, you would still duke them up if you had an issue. That's another thing from these days. If you had a problem, there's none of this behind the keyboard. You know, you had an issue, you'd have to tell that person you had an issue.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then, so, fast forward, moving forward, how did you ended up getting yourself caught up in the judicial system that we have here in California?
So during middle school, I went to school in Long Beach. Like I said, I was growing up in Long Beach from the end of fifth grade on up, and it was at the same time too. It was like '92 was the riots, the Rodney King, right?
Oh,
So where we lived, it was the west side of Long Beach. I mean, we were kids at that time, like in middle school, but there was always segregation too. You know, even though I grew up in military bases where there's so many different cultures and nationalities, I actually didn't see race. I didn't realize that until middle school, where there was a lot of Filipinos that hung out together, but it was also mixed, and we would break dance. Um, but then I would go back to the military base where it was mixed. So I really didn't see racism the way it was there. It was segregated. Middle school was segregated, and that's where you start to see your own cliques. Like you have the people that play sports. You got your taggers, you got your gangbangers, skaters, blah blah blah. You know, and even then, I didn't feel like I fit in. You know, so like I said, I was in a breakdance group. It was called Main Source, right? And then later on, it would turn into, getting put onto Islanders. Like a lot of members from Main Source got put on the Islanders, and I was in high school, and was going into. It was actually the summer. I was in ninth grade in summer, and I was getting kicked out of the schools that I went to, and we were living everywhere. Um, and one summer, I remember I was just bored, and I would hang out with the homies here and there anyway. And I was just bored one summer, and I was just like, "Hey, come put me on." I called them. It was like, "I'm ready. Come put me on." They would ask, some people would ask here and there, "Why don't you just get put on? Why don't you get put on?" I would hang out with them, and you know, um, just courting. Like I was just backing them up at first, and then it was just like, you know what? These are my homies. They're my brothers. Like this is the longest I've been in an area, since moving around a lot. This is the longest I've been in an area, and I felt the brotherhood. And it's actually, when I look back at it, I relate it to the time. It was like that age range. It's the puberty range, like it's when you're finding yourself. It's like the testosterone, like everything about that age range is like you're so um impressionable, like you fall for the okie doke. You get mad at the smallest things. Like somebody talk. I remember like somebody talks about your mama this, like, oh, it's on. Those type of things. Like it's that age, and then you can laugh about it now. But yeah. So that part of high school, was getting kicked out of schools, getting into a lot of fights here and there, and once I got put on, like I said, I called them up. They came down, picked me up. Went to the park. About seven of them jumped me in, like three times. Like I think at the time it was like I wanted to feel
True.
something. Now that I look at it, I wanted to feel something, and yeah, and maybe prove too. Like so yeah, I ended up getting jumped in three times that same day because I don't know, I asked for it, you know, And little did I know, it was like you assume everything that comes along with it. Now you have all these enemies, all these people you didn't even know. Now you have all these issues you inherited.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it started. Um, so what led me into Department of Corrections? Like I said, I was get kicked out of high schools, and it's this thing about wanting to fit in and wanting to make a name for yourself. And I ended up going to continuation school, and where I was, there wasn't a lot of Filipinos, or a lot of our people, but there was a heavy presence of there was Hispanics, so we became friends, and they showed a lot of love, and we used to hang out like in continuation school, and you know, and we got close. We got close, and then what led to the case is hanging out with them, and then running into a rival, and then next thing you know, 3 people get shot. So
Well,
that's how I ended up.
in a continuation school.
No, 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 no. I knew the people that I was hanging out with the people at the continuation school, and it progressed to staying out late at night, you know, um, our groups, intermingling, just like being teenagers. It's all about trying to show who's tough, and that type of stuff. And yeah, so that got me locked up. And in my case, I actually everybody else was getting locked up, and I was the last one, and my name came out in the paper at the same time too. My mom was pregnant with my sister, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do or what I was gonna do, but something in me was like, I didn't want to run. I didn't want to run forever, you know, and I knew it wasn't right. So so I turned myself in. I turned myself in, and blew my mind when I started reading the reports, and it was just like everybody was, well, not everybody, but a lot of people were pointing their finger. It was like, oh, he did it, and I was just like, wow, it was just
Yeah.
crazy. But that's how I ended up in there. So I lost my rights as a juvenile. I lost my 707, and they tried me as an adult because my co-defendants were adults. So I ended up in the system that way.
Real quick. That sounded similar, and if not exactly the same, in my experience also. Uh, getting kicked out from high school, like 3 different high schools, going to a continuation school at Devonshire in San Fernando Valley. Got kicked out, and then went to Aguilar Continuation School. Also got kicked out, and also hanging out with the Hispanics. Also, but not all of them was feeling me because I'm Asian, and they don't like Asian boys at the time. But after that continuation school, that's when I also went to the juvenile system and also got charged as an adult like you. Direct file immediately. So
Right.
similar. So bam, your co-defendants was also adults, same as mine. And then they charged you as an adult, and then you went straight to the county first, or did you
No,
what happened?
so I was in juvenile hall when I was fighting my first case to be tried as a juvenile. So after that, they moved me to a place called the Annex, and it was where the juveniles were gonna do. It was where the juveniles were gonna face state time, and also where those that had immigration holds finished their time but was getting deported. So we were mixed in with them, and and then they transferred me to the city, and then the
Oh, a boot camp,
no, county jail.
county jail. Okay.
Yeah,
Way, Wayside or Twin Towers?
it was Orange County.
Orange County, my bad, my bad. And so, how was your experience in Orange County Jail?
You know what? when I look back at it, and I've
Yeah.
said it a few times before, it was almost like an outer body experience because it didn't really. It's like I watched it on TV. You know, it's like watching things in the movies is like, okay, so now I'm here. But it was still fun and games. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I wasn't learning a lesson yet because I enjoyed being there. You know, some of the things that I enjoyed being there was I don't know how to even say that because it's such a weird thing to say that I had I was having fun, you know. At that time, when I look back at it, I didn't take it serious enough. So even in juvenile hall, you fight. You know, like everywhere else you go, it's the same story everybody says. You know, all of those things happen. So even in the county, you get 3 meals a day. You got a roof over your head. We're not doing anything. You know, you're playing games. You're talking. You know, you're not really doing anything. You're not. You're doing nothing. You know. So and even the Southsiders over there, like I had told the story is I did an accidental removal, but I was because it's very rare that you run into us there, So one of the Southsiders had grabbed me and he was like, "Come on, we're rolling somebody up." I didn't know what was going on. I just went with them and rolled somebody up and was like, "Oh wow, yeah."
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was before nobody told me about politics, none of that. Didn't have any of our people to tell me anything about politics along the way from juvenile hall on up. It wasn't until reception where I learned a hard lesson, and hitting the main line is when I was introduced to our people, who actually laced me down and all that. And I was like, okay, so this is it. We're here.
What was the hard lesson that you learned in reception?
So I went to reception at Wasco.
Yes, sir.
So here's a funny thing, and I've mentioned this before. When we got on the bus, I looked around the bus, and back then, we'd be in K. You know how it was for us, green light and everything before. Um, I looked on the bus, and I'm like, whoa, these guys they look like they're all adults. Like, I had the impression that I was gonna do YA time. So I'm looking at all these guys like, wow, YA is gonna be crazy because you're fighting all day. And I'm seeing all these big adults, and I'm like, oh man. So I tell one of the guys on the bus, yeah, can you check the roster? So he just laughed at me. He's like, nah, you're going to Wasco. So we get to Wasco, and you get to Wasco, and you get off the bus, and the first building you get into, you guys all strip down again, right?
Yeah.
And there were two guys in the cages, and that they were in separate cages and just got off a riot or whatever happened there. But these guys were in the cages, and one of the that was closer, and I had the LB tattooed on my forearms, and maybe that's what he saw at first, and he was just like, "Hey, where you from?" And I told him, and he goes, "You guys got the green light," you know, um,
Well, well,
and
SA said that.
yeah,
Uh, oh, sorry. Okay.
and but I'm assuming back then when I look at the story, I'm assuming that he saw the Long Beach and he probably just assumed we were TRGs. You know what I
Oh,
mean? But it is what it is. You know what I mean? We all had the green light anyway, so to say. If you had slanted eyes, you had to rock with it or not. So so that was my first experience there at that part. And my first celly at Wasco was an Asian dude, a little Chinese dude from. I thought he said he was from LA. I don't remember because we couldn't really communicate good, and he was younger than I was at the time, and he was really he was smaller than me, and I was just 18, and I was small. And by the time they let us go to yard, Um, the first day, I think it was the first day or the second day that we went out to yard. I don't even remember the frequency when they let us out. This is something that happened more than 25 years ago. Um, we walked the track. Obviously, everybody's walking the same way. So we're walking to, we're not really talking, communicating, but he's the only person I know. So we're walking. And I didn't see any of us, like any of our any of our people then
Yeah.
at that time. And then there is some guy who came real quick, and I just remember he had praying hands on tattooed on his face, and he came real quick, and he was like, "Hey, where you guys? Where you from? Like, what city are you guys from? Right?" Real quick, and then he just smashed. Like, didn't see him again. It was like just the weirdest thing. Like, what was that? You know. But I remember, he was an adult, and it looked like he's probably been doing a lot of time. So we walked the track again, and I don't remember how many sets of bars there were. And we ended up at the bars, and I was trying to do pull-ups, just trying to kill time. And Southsider had came up to me and he was like, "You are you Southsider? Do you run Southsider?" And I'm like, "No, right?" But being cool with the Southsiders everywhere else, I thought it was good, you know.
Yes.
And my co-defendants in my paperwork, I'm thinking it's good. So I'm like, "No, I don't run Southside." There was no animosity. There was no scene, nothing. So he was just like, "Oh, you guys can't be on this. You guys can't be on these bars, right?" And I didn't know how to take that at the time. It was kind of like, why, you know, why can't we be on these bars? Like, there's nobody on them. That's why I'm on them. So that whole politics stuff, didn't know about it at that point. So, like I said, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, at least they didn't show it was that big of a deal, and nobody else said anything. So it was like, okay. So we just kept pushing, kept smashing. The next time they let us out to yard, I did it again, and I honestly, it's not that it slipped my mind, or you got a lot of things going through your head. You're doing time, you know, and it's not like I purposely went to the bars and started, like being defiant. Like, no, I just naturally went to the bars and tried to work out. And I don't even remember if it was the same because it happened so fast, and they were like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be at these bars," But eventually, I feel like they sent a torpedo from what I knew a torpedo to be to and
Mission
and
boy.
they attempted to to stick me, you know.
Oh,
But here's the thing, in my opinion, and from what I know now, is there's a no hand. I mean, there's a stay on them policy, right? So you know politics now. It's like either that person is trying to get off the yard, or that person's no. There's something fishy about that story when you look at the whole story. They were looking for a way out, obviously, because what is it for what? Why is it a big deal that I'm on the bars? What is the violation? There's nothing there.
yeah,
Nowadays, like the yards are so messed up from what I hear, seeing stories online and stuff, like, I'm so glad like that. I wouldn't want to experience it ever again. The way things are, but politics, that's not warranted. You know, it's not warranted. And then everywhere else I went too, I was good. So that story doesn't make sense. But anyway, it was a little poke, and we used my cell and we used a sandwich wrapper and just
yeah,
burnt the sandwich wrapper and used it
yeah.
like as a sealant, and it was good.
No, that's
Uh,
crazy. Yeah, yeah,
Here's the other thing too. It's like two of us, and at that time too, it was like, come on, man, like, better to go against the whole yard. You think of these things later on, right? And it was one of those like, we got to do something now. Something had already happened, but thank God that time never came because we were shipped out. You know, Telling the stories wherever I went after, it was their homies telling me like, nah, that person was no good, or I don't know the person. You know, this it's not my people. It's not even our politics. And they would say, yeah, now that wasn't warranted. We have a stay on them policy. If somebody wanted to do something, they would stay on you. You know, I'm like, I believe that. You know, I
Yeah,
just believe I was uh, I would just happen to be there. I just took one for the team, I guess. You know,
does it, but did he make the green light as an excuse for that action, or
not not in that situation.
the
It
situation?
the guy in the cage when I first got there, totally separate. You know,
Oh.
totally separate because I never saw that guy again.
Okay, can I just say it appears that you've been eating a good diet. You've been staying away from that fire kush. You got a great memory, man. That was that was a long time ago. Yes,
Because
sir.
you tell yourself, you know, you like I said, it's like you watched it in a movie. And you know, I've been on a couple other podcasts and telling the story and reliving the story. It's 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 nothing to be proud of. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
It's not braggable because obviously we're older, and if you have kids or you have people like that's not the cool story to tell. You know, there's no you're not gonna get a reward. There's nobody saying, "Oh man, you did time. Yeah, I got to kick it with you." Like, no, they want to stay away from you. You're no good. They're
yeah,
scared of you. Those are braggable things, you know. But it's something that we experience. I've experienced. I've heard other people say the same story. We've made it out of that, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
To look at it, imagine doing time now. Like, how? Oh my God! Like, how are you gonna do time? Like,
yeah,
there's no
yeah.
way. Like, you got to live a life after doing time to do. Nah, man. Like, I heard when everybody told me their problems. You know, the OGs would tell me like how many times they've been to jail, how many times they've been in prison, what's going on with their families, what's going on with their girls, their wives, and like oh man, like the walls have ears. You know, you hear oh his girl left him for this person. Like psychologically, it's in the back of your head too because you're doing time. Well, I guess my girl's cheating on me. You know, those type of things. You know,
Yeah.
or I was a kid at myself, so I didn't have kids at that time. But I would hear other people say like, "Oh, somebody else is there raising their kid. You know, somebody else is there as a father figure to their kids." And like, that's like so heart wrenching. So I heard what everybody was saying, and I would always hear them say, you know, stay out and like, you know, you got to do this, you got to do X, Y, Z. I heard them after the fact because at the time while they were saying it, I was like, who are you to tell me what to do while you're in? You know, you're in here, you keep coming back in here, so your advice is probably, you know,
Me- Yeah.
yeah,
But so in all fairness, the real ones, they understand, and they understand where you're coming from. The people that actually been there, done that also, and the smart ones, they understand where we're coming from. So we're just basically sharing our experience. But anywho, moving forward from the reception, what was your first main line? Which yard?
Pleasant Valley.
Pleasant Valley. What
I went
was
to
was
Pleasant.
that that had the I think there was a Filipino and black disease that they say. I forgot. It's like some kind of flu that only affects the Filipinos and blacks. So that's why most all the pares, they can go to Pleasant Valley. They can't really get. But during my time in the 2000s, I'm not sure about back then.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear about that. I paroled from Pleasant Valley, November 11th. Oh, sorry, November 28th, 2001.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I think it was called Valley Fever. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Oh
or
yeah,
some.
yeah, I hear about Valley Fever. Yeah,
And then the Filipinos are way more susceptible to get it than the other. For some reason. I'm not sure how or why. I don't know
You
if
know
you
what?
heard about.
Um, I did hear about valley fever, but I did not hear that it was race based. Like I didn't, not something I
Right?
heard.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. But how was Pleasant Valley? Is pretty cool.
Pleasant Valley was hot. I remember getting there. It was hot, and it was like you could feel the prickles on your skin. That's how hot it was for me. So,
There-
but Pleasant Valley was cool too. So I had something weird happen um, on the first year too. Like Pleasant Valley was a how these days they'll say like, oh, yards, some prison yards are like they're no good, or that type of stuff. Like no, like back in our days that wasn't the case. But Pleasant Valley was Pleasant Valley was cool. Like never. I mean, it's prison. I don't know what to say. Like it's prison.
how was the homies in there? They're pretty tight. It's pretty cool. I mean, like the car. Like did you experience what do you call this? Like favoritism from different races, or we were solid the Asian Islander car.
No, we were solid, but one thing I did realize is, depending on which yard or which building, say, not all Asians. I mean, we're one car, but we're not on the same side of the day room all the time. Like from where I was at the time, 90, 98, 99, 98 through 2001 was the building I was in. The Filipinos, the Usos, specific others was on the brother side of the day room, and then you would have your mixtures of maybe Vietnamese and Korean on the south side of the day room, So it got a little tricky if things went down, you know, which side of the day room would pop off on, you know what I mean? But as
Oh,
far as that, the car, the other car, they were solid, you know.
but by the way, can I ask where did you get your Islander test? Did you get it inside or outside? Because I
No,
got
bro,
it right here, like
what do you got there?
just a little bit of the Islander tats right here, like right here too.
Yeah. So about my
Your whole-
tattoo.
yeah.
So, I had gang related tattoos when I was younger, right? I had the Islanders all over me. The click on my stomach, Sugar Coat Boys on my stomach, had WSI on me, had I was just like being part of a team, man, like a sports team. Like that's your uniform. You're proud to show which team you're on. You know, um, when I had gotten out, it was like a program that I went through called Erase the Past, and it was a free tattoo removal program.
Oh,
My last year, I had anger management. I had a bunch of classes that it was assigned to me, and one of my counselors was a civilian, civilian counselor that came in and she brought this flyer from Erase the Past. And it was a free tattoo removal program in Long Beach, right? And initially I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know what I was gonna do because things, you have these feelings inside, like, I want to change, I want to do better. That was my initial feelings. But as soon as I got out, I was excited to be out. It was like a dog being out of his cage. Like, oh, I wanted to go hang out, or you know, it's not that I was looking for trouble, but sometimes like you don't respect or value your freedom. You know what I mean? Like I told you in the beginning, it was like watching it from a movie. Like it wasn't really soaking in. Like I knew I was incarcerated, but also time was irrelevant to me. Like just hanging out all day. We were just working out all day, eating all day, like doing nothing all day. And there's something to be said about that, for somebody to be comfortable incarcerated than being home or being in the street. You know, there's something there lacking. Um, so yeah, the other car was tight. Um, there was a couple life changing things that that happened to made me like think more. You know, like GED. You know, like I didn't really apply myself in school. You know, because I was always in trouble, getting in trouble. But getting the GED was a decision to be like, okay, well, you know how the system works. You got to be programming somewhere. So it wasn't until I was in the school and was like, oh, I'm understanding things. You know, I think before, when I was in high school, all I would do all day, West Side Islanders on a paper, everybody's roll call, you know, all day.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't even know why, but just applying myself, and that first, getting past that first milestone, I guess. It wasn't even a milestone. I didn't even, it wasn't a goal that I even set. It was more like I just got put in a class, and then progressively I felt like I was learning more and able to retain stuff, and then got my GED. And then from there, other things started happening, you know. Started taking these extra classes. I taught people how to read. I took this literacy class, and I taught people how to read. You know, I was taking college courses through Fresno University. Me and my old celly, before I left. My old celly was from TRG. You know, um, we we were taking college courses together. You know, actually sitting in the cell, like, you know, he would do his
Doing.
work. Yeah, and but that turned out to where, when I got out, I think I followed up to ask for transcripts, and they actually told me that the state wasn't funding it, you know, which was okay, because even though I spent time doing the work, it probably also kept me out of trouble without me knowing it, you know, because I
Yes.
was too.
Yeah. I was going to ask you. Uh, First of all, I feel you on that bettering yourself. It started with a GED. Once you got it, you know it seems pretty good accomplishment. You started doing other stuff like that. But I was just going to ask, at one point, at what point during your time did you have a realization and that this is for me, man? You know, like I think I should live a better life than this. This is for the birds. This is stupid.
Okay, so there were certain situations before, you know, even when I was on the street, you know, um, even when I was on the street, it was like wanting to do my own thing when I wanted to do it. You know, I've always had this thing about like being defiant, like, and it's like to not take orders, or you know, the bully mentality. You know, like I always went against that. Like it was one of those things, and it was like, you know, sometimes you have hood drama. You know what I mean? Like you have your own internal issues with your own neighborhood, and like those type of things. You know, little things here and there would make me think like, man, are these really my homies? Like some of them, like you're really close to, but that's anywhere you go, you know, in a work setting, even in your own family, you could be like, um, hated on by people in your own family, you know, for no reason, or for the wrong reasons, or for unknown reasons. It was one of those things, like seeing those earlier on, I think helped me see these things while I was in prison, while it was happening, or you know, signs of it, you know, like people having jackets on them, or actually being part of a council to listen, to be like, is this person guilty of whatever they're, you know. And I think that that's carried, those experiences have carried on with me through even now, like the way I judge things, the way I'm more patient, the more, you know, the way I listen to things or people, or the way I just, if I'm not a part of it, I don't need to be a part of it, you know, that type of stuff. Like there's If you don't need to be involved, don't be involved. Um, I did have one USO brother that looked out for me, right? And he was a solid Us. And there was an issue where we were gonna riot, you know, and he had walked with me, and, asked me to go walk with him to take a lap, and he had gotten in my face. Like there was a blind spot um, where what do you call those? The yard. Oh, where the yard crew used to be. By the side of the kitchen, there's a blind spot, and I remember he had like pulled me to the side, and he was like, "You don't want to go home." Like, but the way he approached me, I wasn't seeing it because it was the anger that he showed, and when you look at it, you're in prison, so you stay in fight or flight mode. That's why people have PTSD when they come out, just like the military. You know, um, his message was, "Do you want to spend the rest of your life in here with me?" But he was actually saying like, "I'm trying to save you. Like, what are you doing? Like
Yeah.
you got a release date." Like, and I didn't take it that way. I actually took it as like was abandoning them. Like I felt it was one of those things where I felt sad. Like I was like, "Why are you pushing me away?" And little did I know that was also a feeling that was a trauma trigger from something in my past. Maybe the way I grew up, something from there. There's a lot of those, unseen things. But he was really looking over me, really protecting me, and I knew that. So even when I got out, I took care of him, sent packages and all that. But my boy's rest in peace now. He and that was, yeah, that was it was one of those things where never got to see him on the outs. So those were eye openers. 9/11 was an eye opener for me. You
I
know,
love.
9/11. I remember they were shutting down. They let us out for breakfast. 9/11, and then after that, they locked all the facilities down. So all you did was watch TV all day. But as soon as we came back from breakfast, they were showing the second plane hit. You know, and then they showed clips of people jumping from the buildings and holding up signs. Holding up signs looking for their loved ones, and then something clicked. It was like, you see all these different nationalities, different walks of people, all facing the same, horrific event that happened, and that just made things in the street to me seem small. Seeing your enemy, watching your back in there, like these are people that you didn't get along with in the street that got your back. They're your people. It's like, how does that make sense? Like we're fighting on the streets, but you're backing me up in here, and then we get out to beef again. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You, and like people will bond over the strangest things. You can have two people from different gangs, rival gangs. Who knows? Maybe they have an addiction. They're no longer in confrontation because they're smoking together, doing drugs together, or they're working. Or it can be positive too. It doesn't always have to be negative. But those
Yeah.
enemy lines, something in common has erases enemy lines. My first job when I came out was given to me by an enemy, you know, and he was a fair supervisor. Um, my actual pastor that baptized me was a former enemy. You,
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like you don't see these things like so why do we even do it then? You know what I mean? It's like we go through this whole situation, we put ourselves in these situations, you go around the clock, and then once you get around that clock, it's like, what was this all for? You know what I mean? What did I do this for? Like it was it's a waste of time, but it's also a learning lesson, you know? Like a lot of us have the same story, but a lot of us also didn't make it. You know what I mean? So So if you have the platform to help somebody and tell them the actual truth, about what it's really like, bro, I've done these podcasts and there'll be hate comments, right? I did an interview and there was a lot of love for sure. But what
Okay.
stuck out more was the hate comments. And I actually took the time to read it. Like I said, this was over 25 years ago. Who cares about that story? It was something that I lived. It was my life. I lived it. I just told the story. Whatever
What
your
was
opinion. Huh?
yeah? Okay. Do you have an example of the hate comments?
Yeah, no, I was gonna go there. Yeah, some people would be like, "Oh, that's a lie. This guy's weak. This guy looks soft." So what? I am soft. I I'm no I'm not that same person anymore who needed to be to look tough, to be tough, to look. Why do I got to be hard? Like I work a 9 to 5 now. I eat a little bit better than I did before. Yeah, I'm soft. So what? I'm eating a little better. But that's not to brag. That's to say, why hate on the next person? Like, we're talking about something that wasn't positive anyway. It was a lie. You know what I mean? Like, that lifestyle is a lie. Like, I get it. Some people are raised in it. That's all they know. But for me, it's like it didn't have to be. Like, I chose that route. You know, I chose that route and I followed that route through, and there's nothing but misery at the end of it. You know, you can't even. I don't know if you're lucky to have the same homies. If you're able to keep them from then till now in a positive way, then you're blessed. You're blessed to have that. You know, um, a lot of hardships that I've seen people go through, losing their parents, losing their loved ones in there, or not, or them changing their lives after the fact, and their parents didn't get to see that um that effect that it has on them now, that heartache and all that. Having kids, would you be proud to tell your kids the stuff you did? Like, would they be proud of you? You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. Like, I'm in a weird situation where I have kids and my parents, I'm blessed to have my kids and parents around, and I'm in the middle. So I'm like, when something happens to my kids and I see myself in the situation that they went through somewhat, like I can kind of like understand my parents better. It's always a learning opportunity when you have it. I think when you're older, look, it doesn't matter what race we are. Like, we have, it doesn't matter what race we are. Um, the people we work, I mean, I'm here in the States, so it's like I work with a lot of Hispanics, blacks, everything, you know, but we have common ground. Like, there's something about getting older that people just like, they don't even look at that game bank stuff anymore. Like, they'll tell you, like, listen to those OGs that tell you, like, hey, it's not for nobody. There's a lot of heartache at the end of it. Like, it's cool to back your homies up in a positive way too, to celebrate your homies instead of like, right from wrong. And if you're telling your homies to do the wrong thing, you're the bad homie. You know, you are the one that's, if you're living good and you've moved past on, and you're telling the homie the opposite of what you're the bad homie. Shame on you. You know what I mean? Shame on you, man. Like, you've been there.
And you know
Why?
what? You know what, OG? I don't mean to cut you off. Those people that you're saying this shame on them, I'm catching all them fades from those fake OGs and shit, man.
Yeah,
I'm kind of young. I'm 36, but what do you call this? Just from what you said earlier, pare. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat the hate comments that you get. It just goes to show that you're doing something great. Also, from where I'm coming, real men, brave men, they respect other men that are braver than them. It's hating is feminine. So the hate are coming from the grown man in their feelings, which are called queers. So you're getting hated on by queers. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, what I mean, I'm just saying it how it is, because Denzel Washington said, you know, and I agree, and I think most people in the world would agree to this fact that nobody above you will hate on you. All the hate you're going to get are all from people below you.
Mm,
So it doesn't even matter about the hate comments anymore. It's only matters from the real ones, real recognized real OGs that actually been there, done that. So the hate, forget about them. They can't see us anyway. You know, they're calling you soft. How do they know? They can't say that to your face. You know
right.
what I mean?
I'm sorry. I got a whole I got sidetracked in that response. But what I
Yeah,
actually did, I would message them individually, not on the platform to go back and forth talking trash
yeah,
to each other, but I would
yeah.
send them a direct message and be like, "Hey, what's up with this? Like, this was 25 years ago, you know." And then the conversation progressed to where later on they would say what they really felt. Oh, my bad. This happened to me. Like, well, then why are you trying to take it out on me? You know, like they probably wanted to tell their story or they had something similar. Like, yeah, but we're different people. And basically, that's what it comes down to as men is having these conversations, you know, like, yeah, man, I grew up hating on people growing up for the wrong reasons. I don't have an explanation for it. Maybe I wasn't happy about something else, but usually it didn't have to do with that person at all, you know, when it came down to it, you know. But that's what it was. I would shoot every one of those people a individual message. Everyone. I entertained it. I actually thought it was fun to have haters because I've never, you know, it's been so long that, oh man, I feel relevant because I've been stuck in my bubble trying to do right and raise a family and stuff like that. Like, oh man, but there is something about, you know, somebody saying something to you and you not being able to respond back because your pride also gets a little, you know, poked at. You still have you're still a man, you know. You still want to stand up for yourself and say something back, but why do it in front of everybody watching? I'll come to you directly so you know it's a one-on-one conversation. You said something to me in front of everybody else. Now when I say something to you, just to me and you, what's the conversation going to be? You know? And then real recognize real, 100% of them said my bad. Huh? Hey, no problem. No problem. You're bad. Like, I get it, you know.
That's that's a whole, on a whole nother level of patience right there you're showing, because you actually took the time to find out where's all the hate coming from, you know, like, you know, that's a lot of patience, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
usually it's like it's not directed towards you, you know.
yeah.
Why would it be? They don't know you. They just saw you. They, you know.
It's a self, it's like a self-reflecting thing. It's the hate that they're putting out there is really how they feel about themselves, you know. So
You know, one of the comments said, hey, this is a party too, right?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was directed. Hey, he goes, you want to hear a true Islander story? Got to reach out to the Pare Kuya from SD. You know what I did?
Yeah.
I watched the interview. I said, hey, Pare. I said, hey, Kuya, like, you know, nice to meet you, blah blah blah, like good stuff. We were from neighborhoods that didn't get along when we were kids, but your story is interesting. It's almost we have almost identical stories. Like that's not
Yeah,
hate. Why hate on each other? We made it
yeah.
here.
And man, you know what? Seeing your, you know, social media, you know, me and you are friends also on Facebook. People don't know that are watching this how much of a professional you are. Your job at work, you know, your dad, your a family man. Uh, we see things in a whole different level now, and I know this, and I can feel it in my heart and in my soul that you don't see the other pares as a, you know, street enemy or whatever, a little kid nonsense. You see them as we're all people, we're all the same, especially we all came from the same country, same blood, same everything. It's a real party love, real party movement, real Pinoy shit, you know, and you're on that level, like, you know, and I still get hate from, sorry for the word, but like pares, you know, I'm a blur that word because, you know, I don't like it, but that are like same age and me. Some of them are older from different hoods, different barrios, or different neighborhoods in LA. They still feel some type of way. They're still trolling me around because I'm Jeff Rocks or what, you know what I mean, stuff like that. And I'm showing by example that, buddy, you know, that's you. You hard, man. You're a gangster. You're cool, man. You know, but you know, I'm my people's now and shit, man. My people's comes first. You know, my family over everything now. You know, I'm not the same no more as when we were street banging on the streets. It's not the same. You know, you guys are still, they're still in there. They're still stuck in there, but we're already going back. And the same way how I feel, I can see it from you, from your actions and the way you talk, the way you carry yourself about it. And that's a lot of patience and love actually for you to actually message the haters and and find out. Man, that's love right there. Because why would you even give a crap about them, right?
You know
Yeah.
why? I think for us, like in reality, it's always one. Like you have a platform where you could reach a lot of people at the same time if they're hearing the right message. In their life, they have to be at that point to hear that message because you're going to hear things or read things. Just like if you get a text message from somebody, you're going to read it how you feel. And you might even be hearing it the wrong way. You know, it could be a positive message on their end, but to you woke up looking for that smoke. You know, you wanted a problem. Same thing. It's
Yeah.
like you have a platform where you're going to reach out to people. They don't know you. They're, you know, some of them are going to hit on you. Some of them are going to soak it up and be like, yeah, applaud that one. You know, like that's how we reach out to people individually. We've been in situations. A lot of us have been in those situations where we were blessed to make it out of something, you know. But when you're given a shot to keep doing things right or to make something better of it, and you succeeded, all you need is one, right? You know, like something happened for us to change. You know, same thing for everybody else. You can only reach one person at a time. Um, but they have to be the ones, right? You know, like I meant that to say, like, look at what we've accomplished so far. I watch your stuff too. You know, very accomplished in your personal life. These are personal things that we do, but also on a personal level, we've also made mistakes in the past, and it's hard to get yourself out of that hole, and nobody knows that. But here's the thing, though: when people give up, like it's hard. Like I've been turned down so many times, like for work or for like just having that record. You know, even though it's been so long ago, there's things that have happened at my job where they'll do a background check and I won't get that part of my job because that's there. You know, that doesn't go away. You know, the only way that can help somebody in the future is don't do it, so you'll never have to go through that issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they need to hear these stories from your guests. They need to hear these stories that they've been through all this stuff, but you still have time to correct yourself. You know what I mean? You could still make your parents proud if they're around. You could still make your kids proud to look up to you. Like, I don't know if you have the same issue, but for me, I still have a problem. I do everything for everybody else, and I still have a problem um, applauding myself when something comes up. I don't look at it that way because I feel like I'm still trying to catch up to what I should have been. You know what I mean? I think I don't give myself enough credit because I should have never went down that road. You know, so it's one of those things.
I, you know what, big bro, I kind of relate to what you're saying that there's some type of guilt from all the pain and suffering that we have caused our family from our selfish actions, and doing time and being caught up. You know what they say is true, that when you're doing time, all the people that loves you also doing time emotionally. And we still have that guilt, but I believe that God controls everything, that everything happens for a reason. And also, that in your heart and in your soul that you're doing the righteous right thing right now, that we're doing the righteous thing right now. We can't take back the past, but what we can do is promise to live the rest of our life doing the righteous thing and never going back and hanging out with the demons. Or yeah, something like that, you know.
I do my best to not sugarcoat with, you know, especially in this light. You have the platform. We are who we are. We do have a past. Look at us. We got our tats still flaunting, right? But also in our professional lives, we're popping collars. We have benefits. We're doing these things, but at the same time too, we're telling everybody like, you're looking at me now. I'm telling you who I was before, but you're looking at me now, who I am now. So like I do my best to tell our younger bodies like what's real. Like, like, hey, you're beefing with these guys on the street. When you get in here, knock on wood, you don't have to get in here. You're gonna depend on each other. You know, you're gonna depend on each other, and let's see if you feel the same when you get out about this person and about your homies if they're still around. It's a crazy thing. I went to this lifer reunion not too long ago where I met up with a lot of other bodies, right?
Yeah.
And it was so good to see these bodies. Like they were facing life sentences that are now out, so they have a chance to do it again. And I follow them, and like they're taking advantage of it. You know, I think the times have changed too. Like this is not the '90s anymore. Hey, I have homies who teach jujitsu. I have homies who own auto shops, and like I have homies in the Philippines who make music. They're entrepreneurs. Like even here is like, so as a people, what are we doing? You know, be proud of, like, we should be wanting to be, looked up on, looked up to from our own people. Like I want our, I want my grandma to be like, hey, you know, that's my grandchild. He's like, he's a good guy, and actually know it. Like, yeah, I am a good guy. I made some mistakes, but I'm still a good guy. You know, one of those. Like, we're impressionable to our youth if they're listening, and they got a lot of talent. Times have changed. They have a lot of talent, so go get it.
Hey, you know what, OG? And everything you're saying is basically jam, because this is not, it's not something you learn from the Google, or you saw on TV. This is super credible, just based on that. What you're saying is what actually happened in real life experience, so it makes everything credible. Because nowadays is everything, everybody's an actor. You know what I mean? Like everything's scripted, and this is as raw and as real and as it can get, is from from what really happened. uh before before we check the spot, I appreciate you, of course, hanging out with your boy, dropping by, spitting jam. Do you have any other messages out there that you would like to share with the youth, with the world, with gang members, with the civilians, with regular people, pretty much all human race, or whatever?
You know, this has come up a few times where when I was a kid, I didn't um, I didn't really aspire to be anything. I didn't have any dreams of what I wanted to be. So just knowing that, I always thought like, well, maybe I'm supposed to die early, or I didn't know, I didn't have anything pushing me or giving me a dream or a vision. Both of my parents were in the military, but as I got older, I got to appreciate why they were in the military, and I am so proud. It's like, you know now, before, I realized I missed them. That's why I acted out sometimes. It was a progression on what led to other things for me. This is gateways, right? So for the younger generation, if you're you feel a type of way, learn how to communicate. Like say, learn how to express. Like people use music. A lot of people are blowing up on music, and that's how they're expressing. It's a form of communication. Maybe if you try to rap to your parents, they're not going to understand it. If there's an issue there, but if you were to take the time to communicate how you feel, so they know how you feel, if it's reciprocated back, it'll be a positive, conversation. But it's don't carry things, let things out. Like, learn how to communicate. If you feel a type of way, lean on your friends, lean on your bodies, lean on your, you know, reach out. Like if they have a question, like say for you too, for example, they can reach out to you. All it takes is to get up in your messages. Like you got a question, or you can hit me up, you know, but communicate. It'll go a long way. It'll save you with a lot of things in your life, with work, with relationships, with your children. Like it doesn't stop. Like communicate and put your trust in God. That's what I would say. That's my
And that, I'm I'm getting a lot of gems too. I feel exactly the same way. What you're just saying. Learn how to communicate and express yourself, and don't keep whatever bad feelings that you're having. That's like 99% of the problem solved right there, right?
hey
Not
brother.
really.
You ever have you ever have been in a situation where you're younger, right? And there's
Sorry.
somebody you have a problem with somebody, and then you guys either talk it out or fight it out, and at the end, you guys are best friends because you learn how to communicate. I would rather you communicate, work it out, talking than throwing hands. But what I'm saying is, you can always come to a conclusion. It doesn't have to go that far. Like you can always come to that conclusion. Just start by talking.
I appreciate you, bro. And also, I appreciate you, like I said, man, hanging out and kicking it with me. And also, by just let me know whenever you're free, whenever you're in the Philippines, you're in the businesses.
Oh,
You know,
I'm coming through.
yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
I'm coming to get the.
And you already know, party movement, man. We uniting all the parties in the whole world and shit, man. And with that being said, you'll know what time it is. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Because real recognize real, homeboy. Yes, sir. Out of here. Peace.